Nancy is a player. Wow, athletic. I mean, super, super explosive. It was kind of like she just kind of glided, through thin air. And so it was really a pleasure to watch her play just from an athletic standpoint.
And I would say playing sports with our twins, I think it gave us an edge because there was something unspoken between us. We could always play on the soccer field, and I could blindly play a ball to Nancy and just know where she was going to be.
When Nancy first got here, she was ready, physically, mentally, soccer-wise, to step in. And one of the reasons why they won an ACC championship, and one of the reasons they were able to play a back three back in the day, especially against teams like North Carolina, was because she had somebody like Nancy in the back, who was all around, had everything that you'd look for in a player. Speed, athleticism, quickness, technical ability, speed of thought, speed of play, and that extra edge mentally. She was a leader on the field.
But the thing about Nancy is she really set a standard for herself that was much higher than anyone else would have ever set for her. And she tried to reach that standard every single day.
She loves her school. She loves her team. She loves everything about Clemson and what it meant to her.
Jay Berger is an interesting personality, and I want to first say the main thing about Jay Berger, if I could say one thing, kind of like Iron Man, is that he was a warrior. I mean, the consummate warrior. The guy was a bulldog. He got on the court. It wasn't artistic sometimes, it wasn't pretty, but as Chuck Creasy would say, he was gritty.
When I recruited Jay Berger, we needed a competitor. That's what I was looking for. All the pieces were in place to have a great team. Luckily, I watched Jay lose the first round of a national championship match at Kalamazoo, and he will not like me saying this tonight, but this is the truth. He was underneath a bush or a little tree crying after the match out in the parking lot, and I was the only coach to talk to him. Well, I'm glad that he lost, and he must have remembered me talking to him because he came to Clemson. Very quickly, he rose into being one of the top players in the United States.
He had great ground strokes, great forehand, great backhand, but he ran, he had great wheels, and he had a very idiosyncratic serve where he started kind of up here, and he kind of rocked it and hit it because he had a shoulder issue, and people always would think, how can this guy be that good a player? Look at his serve. But obviously he was one of the top players in Clemson history.
Well, I was recruited by Coach Bruley when I was at Fort Lauderdale High School, and I had no intentions of coming here. That's the irony of it. I had no idea where Clemson was. But my doubles partner, we were number 3 in the state. Coach needed a number 3 doubles team, so he was smart enough to recruit my partner, and he invited me to come along. And I told him I really didn't have any inclination to come here. So I came up here, and he was just probably the nicest man I ever met here.
Hoke Sloan, for all those years, he was the bedrock and the father of Clemson tennis, but you were the guy that got it going at a national level. Coach, I guess the best thing I can say to you, and the best thing that anyone can say to a coach, is your legacy are all of those guys and all those people that you've had. I still remain great friends with many of your guys that I've met over the year who've been so kind. Coach, these guys are your legacy, and these are guys that they do you proud because they've stayed in tennis. They love you a lot, and they've always told me that when I've ran into them.
What I remember the most is that I wanted to win for him. He made us feel important and very special.
When we signed Danny was recovering from back surgery. So it was sort of a gamble, but not really. We knew that if he got healthy, he was going to be one heck of a player for us, and he was. He was not able to hit a golf ball until December of his freshman year, and by February he was a starter. So it didn't take him long, and he just took off from there.
Danny was a great teammate. We came in together as freshmen, played all 4 years together, had a lot of competitive battles between ourselves, which turned into great competition for Clemson against our opponents. We were very successful. The best traits that Danny displayed were he had a competitive fire that was second to none, wanted to win, whether it was ping pong, pool, golf, whatever it was. He had a belief in himself, which helped him, attain the goals he set, in his golfing. And he just had a desire to be the best.
Well, the first time I remember Ed McDaniel was that we were practicing for a bowl game in somewhere in Florida. I guess we were in Daytona. And we sent a couple of coaches back up to the East-West high school all-star game in South Carolina, and Tom Harper happened to be one of them. I think Miles Aldridge might have been the other one. And Ed was a linebacker who we didn't know very much about, and he was practicing so well that Tom Harper called me that night and said that we want to offer this young man a scholarship. And I didn't even know who Ed McDaniel was, and I said, well, what's the deal? And he said, well, he's a little short, but he can play. And I said, well, you're the defensive coach, and if he can play, we need him. So.
You were an outstanding player, outstanding leader through the Clemson years you were there. It was my privilege to coach you. Although I told many people many times, all I had to do was get you started in the right direction, and you would take care of the rest of us.
Ed was a very likable guy. Everybody on the team really thought a lot of him. Coaches, players, all the secretaries in the building. That's the type of personality that he had. And he kind of displayed what he did on the field, same thing off the field. And he was a very likable guy and did a great job for us in terms of selling Clemson.
Linda came from a small Y program in Harrisburg, PA. Her development was a true story of how hard work and attitude can lead to greatness. She was one of the toughest women I've ever been around, which is one of the greatest compliments I can give. During her tenure as a swimmer, she made significant improvement every year.
I remember when I was being recruited by Clemson, one of the things I was most impressed by were all of your great achievements, and the fact that as a sophomore you were able to go out and be the first female swimmer to win individual events at the ACC championships. And that really showed me that the Clemson program was moving in the right direction, and that I wanted to be a part of a program that was breaking new ground and trying to get to the next level. And I think the other thing that I really remember most about swimming with you at Clemson was that you taught me that it didn't really matter who won a race as long as Clemson won the race. And I know together we competed against each other many times, and like today I don't remember who won any of those races, but what I remember is after every race, no matter who won, that you were always there with a hug and a smile and a way to go. And you taught me that it didn't matter who won as long as Clemson won.
Linda was multi-talented as a swimmer, but the best part was what a wonderful young lady she was. Being around her was one of the great pleasures I had in my 17 years of coaching swimming at Clemson. I've been associated with many great athletes over my 30 years of coaching. Linda was one of the best I've ever had the pleasure of being around.
Well, Tim Tuffle and I feel a bit of a kindred spirit, and we both came to Clemson for the 78-79 academic year, and we were both from Connecticut. He came from Greenwich, Connecticut, and he had an instant impact on the Clemson program. In 2 years, he had 24 home runs. He had 13 in the 79 season, 11 his senior year. Really, it was a big reason Clemson got to the College World Series. He led the ACC in home runs that year with 11. There might not have been another second baseman who has led the ACC in home runs since then.
Tim was a baseball god for us at Clemson. Just being his peer, we had some good teams, but Tim just loved the game. He worked hard at the game, and he had just pure enjoyment playing baseball.
Well, Pierce is turned into the ambassador for our program when it comes to alumni and a resource in the area for soccer, because he runs the CISA Soccer complex and the CISA Soccer Club. So obviously he was a fantastic player when he was here at Clemson, and I remember I was playing about the same time in college, and Pierce Tormey was a name that was synonymous with success in college soccer. More than anything else, when I first was interviewing at Clemson, Pierce was the name that a number of people gave me to talk to, and his integrity as a person and his honesty is what strikes you more than anything else. He's got a great sense of humor. He's one of those people that can tell you no and make you laugh about it, but he is also the type of person that when things don't go well, he's the first one to make you feel better.
When I think of Sharon Wells, I think of a winner. She hated to lose worse than any player, I guess, that I've ever coached. Sharon was a left-handed two-guard and extremely athletic, very talented, worked very hard, spent a lot of time on her own developing her skills. Tremendous work ethic.
I remember in 1991, we played Virginia. Virginia was ranked first in the nation. And in that game, she scored 25 points. In that same year, NC State was ranked high, and she scored 25 points for that game as well. So she was not intimidated by no one, but she always continued to have that pleasant personality, shooting that ball just deadly all the time.
But more importantly, the thing that when you met Sharon or saw Sharon, that smile from ear to ear, very much like Barbara Kennedy. She just had a personality that you fell in love with. Sharon Wells was a tremendous player and a big, big part of the success that we had at Clemson University.
When someone mentions Billy Williams to me, I have fond memories. Billy came in 1977, I believe, and he was just a pleasure to coach. He was very attentive to everything we were trying to do, but he was very quiet off the court.
Billy Williams, when I thought about doing this, the first thing that came to mind is that Billy was swagger before that term was popular. He just walked around with a very high level of confidence. He wore the wristband around his forearm in a way nobody else did, and just was a tremendous player. I believe he was the best two-guard in the ACC.
Billy came to Clemson, and he was not only a successful player, but he was probably the first player I recall that played with a certain flair to his game. And as opposed to a lot of guys who tried to play with flair, he played with flair and produced results. Billy had a tremendous game, very creative game, and obviously he produced great things at the institution at Clemson. But maybe the best thing I can say about Billy Williams is that he was a great teammate. Great teammates make your teams better. Great players are great to have, but they need to be great teammates. Billy was a great teammate.